Oops, okay, I guess we're recording now.
The conference has been muted. The conference has been unmuted.
One of the things that I found out about mobile learning when there's a lot of information out there about it now. I mean, you probably have various different blogs and various different things that you're getting emails from that are talking about mobile learning from even like the learning management systems are starting to have applications for it, and we all know that mobile learning is like a really big influence in the e-learning and distance learning area. So when I looked at definitions for it, I found that M-learning or mobile learning had different meanings for different communities. So although it's related to e-learning and distance education, it is distinct in its focus on learning across contexts and learning with mobile devices. So we're really talking about smartphones and tablets and iPads and that platform to do learning pretty much where learners can learn from anywhere, anytime. So I found this definition that it's any sort of learning that happens when the learner is not at a fixed predetermined location, or learning that happens when the learner takes advantage of the learning opportunities offered by mobile technologies. And this, as you can see, this definition has been around for a while, and in a search of the more recent references that are available about mobile learning, this definition seems to be used in a lot of different references that I looked up. So I thought, well, this is probably a really good place to start from. And in talking today about mobile learning, I'm going to talk a little bit about mobile learning, but I'm really going to focus more on mobile applications. And our academy has been doing a little of both, but more recently we've been working on apps, and so that's what I'm going to focus on primarily in this webinar. But we're going to talk about the benefits of M-learning to the child welfare training system. And well, probably the number one bullet up there is convenience. Mobile learning solutions are expanding how organizations train employees and allow users to access content, like we said, from anywhere. So they can be out anywhere in the field, they can be anywhere in their office, and they can access things from their phone or from a tablet if they're using it. So it makes the content available and easily available at any time. So it's really convenient, and convenience is really the key for adoption when it comes to stuff like M-learning and applications, because if you make it, it needs to be something that's convenient, because if you make it difficult where there's going through several things to log on to something or whatever, people are less likely to want to participate in it. So M-learning really needs to be very, very easy to get to and very convenient for people. It has to be relevant. So it's just like anything else with content, easily accessible reference guides, tips, practice guidelines, things that are relevant to people's jobs are what they want M-learning or M applications about. So mostly you're using M-learning to enhance workers' knowledge. It's not really being used for skill building or skill training. It's something that can be used as a reference tool that comes after a classroom activity or after an e-learning activity, but it's primarily something that we're using to do knowledge and then reinforce skills that people learned. So what we're doing at the Public Child Welfare Training Academy is we're developing mobile applications that provide, like what's on the screen, they provide reference guides or tips and practice guides, so that it's short chunks of information, not what you would think of in M-learning as like a traditional e-learning course that's just converted to being able to be played on a phone or on a tablet. It's more of an application where you would be using the application to look up information or target specific websites or something that's not graded, it's not evaluated. It's primarily, like I said, information, reference guides, tips, things like that. Transfer of learning can take place with mobile apps through knowledge and skill reinforcement. And M-learning can consist of anything from checklists to tools and tips to podcasts to videocasts, mobile apps, and mobile learning. So all of those different things encompass the different things that are available in mLearning, and because it's a mobile workforce and most people have phones, there's an extraordinary benefit to the child welfare training system to use them. It's cost effective. Mobile learning is obviously cheaper than booking the resources required to do face-to-face training. And the information can be easily pushed out on the smartphone device or the tablet to learners. So it's it can be a fairly inexpensive way to provide information to a large workforce. And then keeping it current, currency really has to do with the fact that you can update mobile learning relatively simply. And it's a really good way to do things like push updates on policy, maybe legislation, key information to learners, those types of things that are changing, where you want to provide maybe updates, like there's a new all-county letter of some information that came out on a particular county policy or something like that. A county could create mobile apps for their workforce, or you could have mobile apps that apply across the board to social workers in general. So that's kind of the benefits of mLearning. And then, of course, the trends that we're finding is that the strongest case for an mLearning strategy is that most of our organization employees already have the technology. So as you can see here, there's a lot of percentage, and this is just from the eLearning Guild, this is just across all kinds of organizations, but the percentage of people that are using their personal mobile devices for work is fairly large. There is one caveat, and we ran into this at the very beginning when we were starting to develop mobile learning and mobile apps. There was a question that came up about that some workers might have concerns about using their personal devices and work time, as well as their data plan on their phone. So in some cases, there may be counties or organizations where employees have smartphones that the organization is paying for the data plan, and in other cases that may not be the case. So there is some concern about that, but with the development of mobile apps that are, and we're going to talk about the difference between native apps and web apps, with native apps that can be downloaded onto the phone, which is like what you probably all are putting onto your phones in various different forms of the different things that you're interested in. The applications that put information directly onto your phone really have a very short amount of data that's being transferred. It's only really being transferred when it's downloaded onto the computer, or onto the phone or the tablet, and then that content is native on the device. It may be that there are web links that are going to specific things on the web that would require an internet connection. But with several of the apps that we've developed, the information is actually downloaded onto the device. The information is then there on the device. And if we update information, it's just a matter of having the update function turned onto your phone, so that if we update it, it's going to automatically update on your phone, which, again, I'm pretty sure that most of you have smartphones, and you're probably getting updates to things like CNN or whatever you have on your phones when they make updates to things. So like I said, many mobile apps are downloaded and don't require much data transfer, so that takes the kind of concern about having the data usage cost fees associated with people who may have to be paying for that on their own. I'm going to talk a minute about just mLearning in general and what we found about a year and a half ago when we started looking into doing mLearning. We use a learning management system called Results on Demand, SumTotal, and it's a typical learning management system that we use for all of our training registrations, all of our training tracking, and we also use it to distribute our e-learning courses. So the company came out with a mobile access mobile player, and what we found was that we could install the mobile player onto a phone. And I fooled around with a couple of different mobile courses, and I made a couple of small courses. And we were able to upload them to our learning management system. And then we did an internal pilot with staff at the academy. And they went to the App Store, downloaded the Results on Demand player for their phone, and they were able to download the course and then access the course and look at the course. And these little courses had maybe 4 or 5 screens of content information and then a little quiz, and then there was a way to send the data back up to the learning management system that actually showed in the learning management system that you took the mobile course and that you completed it, or because you took the test or whatever. So that was all fine, well, and good. The only real issue with it was that there was a cost involved that was fairly significant and that we didn't feel that we were going to be able as an academy to absorb. And that was that everyone that we would want to have access to mobile learning. So if we took our whole database of learners in our learning management system and we set off the trigger that accessed them to mobile learning, the cost was something like $10 per user. So it was going to be significantly expensive to allow that level of access for mobile learning. So we thought about that and said, let's look at other ways of doing mobile learning, and maybe mobile applications would be a better way for us to go, because we're not really that concerned about having what would be a mobile learning course, like I said, on someone's phone or on a tablet. We really didn't want to take existing e-learning courses and just make them available or make shorter versions of them. So we thought, well, how can we do this? So then we started getting into, let's start talking about doing mobile apps. And so some of the things that we learned in developing mobile apps was, and I'll talk more about this, but there are basically two platforms. Well, there's three really. There's the Android platform, there's the iPhone platform, and there's the Windows platform for Windows phones. We primarily are developing for Android, and we'll talk a little bit about why. But first let me talk about some of the tips that we did for success. We did a lot of research on what are the trends, what are the ways that you want to build applications, how do you build them, how do you make them usable. And one of the things that we looked at was some of the tips that came from experts at the mLearning Conference and Expo. And they talked, which is one of the major conferences that's been going on for 2 or 3 years now. I think it's sponsored by the e-learning guild, if I'm not mistaken. And it's basically a whole professional conference devoted to mLearning. And so they're talking all about the trends and all about the various different things. And so what we found was that what they were talking about was having a balanced approach. And the balanced referred to delivering content in the simplest possible format. So really just delivering content, minimal, primarily text-based, minimal, small graphics. You could include some audio or video files or links to videos, but whatever way that you were doing it, whatever way you were going to design it, to make it really simple and not have to go through too many steps to get to the content. So like I said, some mobile apps would include web links, and some of them are even use social media sites to provide richness to the content. Like there are a lot of mobile applications out there that would have links to Facebook, that would have links to Twitter, that would have links to other kinds of things. And in some of the tools that are available out there to develop, those types of templates are available and you can include them. Simplified referred to having a flexible design and an intuitive interface. And what you're seeing on the screen is there are 2 different applications. This is the same application. We developed an application called Child Development Milestones, which is an application that we took content from CalSWEC approved content that's being used in the Child and Youth Development course. So what used to happen is when people took the Child and Youth Development course in CORE, they would get a handout, like a physical handout of, in some cases it was a paper handout, in other cases it was like a little small cut booklet that was like laminated pages with a little ring binder. And the content is the various different healthy growth, normal, developmental concerns of children at various different ages along the continuum from birth to, I believe it's to 18 years old. So we basically took that content and converted it into the categories of information for the various different areas, like as you see on the screen, like birth to 3 months, normal, or birth to 3 months, healthy growth. And then what happens is when you press on that icon, on the right, you'll see the text information that comes up. So it's very small amounts of text that are easy to read, that are kind of chunked into particular areas. So it makes it pretty quick and pretty easy for the social worker to just on their phone click on the application. The actual desktop or interface to the application is scrollable, so you would scroll up and down on that with your finger and just pass it up and down like you would with other apps that you're probably familiar with. And that would show you all the various different categories, because I think in the child development milestones there's probably about 30 of them. There's quite a few. And then on the left is the same application. It's the same app, but the one on the left is what's developed for that we're using for the iPhone. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And that's actually a web-based application as opposed to a downloadable application. But again, it's got a really simplified interface that has some categories and some pages and a little navigational arrow up at the top. So when we talked about the whole concept of simplified, most people are familiar with how to use a mobile app on their smartphone or their tablet because people are doing it, and so the easier you can make the navigation to get to the content, the better. And the intuitive interface really refers to using like small icons that you're going to press on, excuse me, or simple navigational arrows or tabs to easily move to content areas. And you find that to be the case in the majority of mobile applications that you're looking at. Now, of course there's more sophisticated applications that are coming from things like CNN or the Weather Channel or other things that have databases and backends and things developed into them. But still they're using, for the most part, little visual icons that you press on and then text or web-based kind of information that's being shown on the screen. And then the third tip is that mobile apps should be specialized and highly targeted and relevant. So in this case, for example, child development milestones, while that's something that's relevant, and we found is relevant to the greater community as a whole, because there are a lot of, apparently there are a lot of new mothers and people interested in child development that are out there that downloaded our app. It's specifically targeted to social workers who are in the child welfare arena. This is something that they need to know. This is something that they can have in their little bag of tricks to be able to look stuff up quickly. And it's maybe not something that would be information that you would remember without having some kind of little handout or some little guideline to help you. So this seemed to be a really a way to make where mobile users would want content that's customized and relevant to them. This was certainly a good example of that. The content needs to be in small chunks that's easily accessible. Existing materials that lend themselves to conversion into a mobile format give you a distinct advantage in adopting and learning. So again, we felt like we had some already vetted existing content that lent itself to making a mobile app. And actually our director at our academy here came to us and said, what can we do to make a mobile app so that we don't continually have the admin staff having to create what's a labor-intensive job to make the laminated booklet that gets handed out at the core. And so this was the first, this was our first piece of content that we developed. So we kind of had, like I said, existing content that was fairly easy to adapt. So that was pretty helpful. And then mobile devices' ability to search and access content that helps and remembering makes it an excellent field tool. So the same thing in terms of being able to include links that are available in the application that are specific to what that content is about. So again, highly targeted, highly relevant links. And we'll talk a little bit more about, we just released a mobile app on the welfare and institution codes for social workers that are specifically the 300 series that are the ones that they're using the most. So it's really specialized to that portion of the welfare and institution codes. And then we're providing some really quick information and then links to specifically to that one particular thing, like a 6-month hearing, for instance. It's going specifically to that piece of the code. So you're not searching through the entire Welfare and Institutions Code database. You're right there when you press on the link. It's taking you right there. So, so having that capability is one of the things that allows you to do specialized and highly targeted and relevant information for apps. And so we kind of think that these are good tips for success, and we feel like we've been able to include those in what we're doing, and that's helping us to create applications that we hope will be successful in terms of their usability and their adoption by social workers. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about how to create mobile apps. So this is really hopefully what some of you are on the line because you're planning on doing this. I'm hoping that this is going to provide you with some some background information on how to do it and maybe a little bit of a leg up in looking in the research that will help you to get started a little faster. So, so talking about how to create a mobile app. There really isn't a single solution for mobile app development. There's a variety of platforms, development tools, frameworks, and delivery mechanisms out there. One thing that you see on the screen is there are Android and iPhone apps, and there are native applications and web applications. Like a lot of things with the Mac platform, it is much easier and less costly to create mobile applications for Android devices than for iPhone devices. And that's mainly due to the proprietary nature of the Apple iOS operating system. So like creating things on the PC or creating things on the Mac, it's just easier to create things. There are more available resources that make it easier to do things on the Android than make it to do on the iPhone. And so we found that in our research of using the tools that we're using to produce, we chose to use an online template-based software program that allows us to create fairly quickly Android devices, or Android applications, excuse me. But in order to use a subscription service to do an iPhone application as well, where you basically create the application once and then publish it so that it's available for both devices, it's much more expensive. And it was cost prohibitive to us because the cost for the subscription services is primarily based on a per application charge. In some cases there are things that are out there that do a per user charge, but we only looked at the per application. And in order to create the amount of, like we're developing just in this fiscal year, we're going to develop 5 or 6 mobile applications. It's not possible for us to pay a subscription monthly service for every app that we develop every month. So we had to come up with a workaround for the iPhone, which we did, that I can talk about. But not to discourage you that if you were interested in creating, essentially there's one mobile app. You only have one mobile app and you're like, we're going to create a mobile app on such and such for our workforce. Then I would definitely go with the type of subscription service that allows you to create the application once and then publish the application for both the Android and the iPhone. I mean, it's a much simpler, much easier way to do it. But like I said, it comes with a cost to it. In terms of a native application, what I'm talking about there is that a native mobile application is the one that can be downloaded to your smartphone and the content is available on your smartphone without Internet access. So that's the type of, we're developing native applications for the Android, and we're developing web applications for the iPhone. And if the application includes web links, then of course you need Internet access to view the content available through those links. But the basic content is actually downloaded onto the smartphone or the tablet, and it's now on the application, and you're not having to have an Internet connection to actually interact with that content or use that content. A web application is platform independent, so it doesn't matter that it's for, I mean, it can be, a web application can be on an Android, it can be on an iPhone, it can be on a BlackBerry, it can be on Windows or whatever, but it is still browser dependent. So it can reach a wide range of devices with browsers and data connectivity. There's no application installation or configuration that's required. It's only that your application is being viewed on the device through the browser that's that's housed on the device, so whatever that may be. And it's almost instantaneously available on all devices based on connection speed. So it's really something that's a web application, mobile application is something that's closer to a mobile website, and it's in how it's used. So that's the difference between these four things. How to create a mobile app. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about the subscription services. There are a number of subscription-based mobile application template-based software services available to create mobile apps. If you do a search, you'll find that there are probably 10, 20, 30, there's a lot of them out there. Each of them has benefits and limitations, and they come in a variety of costs per application or cost per user type of subscription service. But many of these applications, many of these subscription services allow you to create limited free applications, but they come with ads or embossed logos of the company. So you may go on a site and go, oh wow, I can just create one of these and I can like use it on my phone and download it. And then it has, for instance, like there's like advertisements or the logo of the company or something that's showing up, and that's you really just don't want that. So that wasn't something that we felt that we could do. We're like, no, we don't want ads and stuff like that on our app. So in order to not have that, you typically would have to purchase a full subscription to remove the ads from your application. So that's how those things work. Many of the subscription services will provide you with the one development platform to design your mobile app and then publishes the files you need to have an Android-based application and an iPhone-based application. So for instance, the one on the screen, Biz Apps or Business Apps. This one I think is, of all the ones that I looked at, this one has some of the best features and probably has one of the best price points of any of the subscriptions that's out there. The Business Apps subscription costs $59 per month per app. So if you create an app using the software, you're going to be paying $59 every month to continue to have that access, to have that accessible to people to use. And it's a per app charge. So if you're, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Yvonne. I have
That's
a question about the per person cost. That also, is that a monthly subscription?
Well, and I'm not quite as familiar with that because we're not doing it, but in my research and looking at them, I noticed that there were pricing structures that said that they were like a per user cost. So I would assume they're charging you based on the numbers of installs or the numbers of people using it. I'm not sure exactly how that works,
Okay.
but that's, I think, what they're referring to. And I know that at San Diego State University, they're using an application that was built on a subscription service. I think it's called iCampus, and it's a subscription service that's built specifically for university settings. So the types of information that you can include in the app are the news, the sports teams, the courses. There are different little icons for the different little templates that allow you to put this information in there. They charge, I'm not exactly sure what the university paid for it, but it's a platform that you would use and you would buy, and then somehow it's charged on a per user basis. So I'm not even sure how you would target that. Like you would probably have to work with one, you would have to talk to one of these application companies and their salespeople to find out what does that really mean. Like is it $10 per user or 10 cents per user? I'm not really sure. But that's the pricing structure that's separate from, if the pricing structure, was per user, then I don't think there's a per monthly subscription charge on top of it. I think it's one or the other.
I see.
So hopefully that helps. And again, sorry, I'm not quite as familiar with that. But in our case, like I said, since we're using, we're doing multiple apps, and we didn't want to spend that kind of money to support applications. we found this software product called Andromo, which is the one at the top. And that provides you with a template-based internet software program that allows you to produce as many Android mobile applications as you want, and the cost is $99 per year. So it's significantly cheaper. And so we're using that software program. We signed up for an account. We paid the 1-year $99 subscription. We'll renew it, and each year when it comes up for renewal, we'll pay for that. But we're able to develop as many applications as we want, and put those applications in the Play Store and have them available for people to download. So that was our solution to doing Android apps. And so at the beginning, when we started doing this about a year ago, our thought was, we're going to develop these Android apps, and we really weren't that concerned about the iPhone users. We're like, not really. We're gonna figure out how to do this one way and how we can do it, cost effectively, and then we'll bridge we'll go to the next bridge and try to figure out how to do the iPhone part. But that was, and then of course with Andromo, we had to pay the subscription price. The reason for that was because we wanted to create and publish as many apps as we wanted, and we didn't want ads in them. So you can use it for free and have ads. And we looked at them, we're like, no, we don't like this at all. And so we felt that it was a very cost-effective way to do this. Then each of these subscription services, what they come with is, they're all a little different, but they come with various different templates and like widgets. And they allow you to create custom pages of information or things like maps or videos or contacts and similar features that you see in a lot of apps out there. So like for instance with Andromo, you can create custom pages, and then you can create things like there's a little map icon. So you click on the little map icon, and that's going to bring up the map of your location, and it's already connected to Google Maps. So it's something you can use on your map that's like dynamic.
Excuse me, Val. I think someone has their phone on hold as to why we're getting the music in the background. I don't know if they can hear me, but can you please remove that because we're getting music in the background? And if you know who that is, maybe you can ask them to take it off of hold. Thank you.
Should I keep going with?
Yes, please.
I'll keep going with music track.
Okay.
Anyway, what I was saying is that there are excuse me, all these little templates or little widgets that you can use, and you basically pick them based on what you want. So, like as an example, for our Academy app, we have some custom pages that talk about our different Academy programs. And then we have a little button that you click on that says Contact. And so the Contact button, you just fill in the information for the email and the website and stuff like that. And so then it comes up in this really nice little, this little page that has, like if you click on it, it's going to automatically open up your email application. Or like where we have for the map, you click on the map and it opens it up in Google Maps, and you can do the same thing that you could do with any kind of Google map and stuff like that. So they all of these different tools have different ways that you can create content and different things you can do. So depending upon what you're looking for, depending on the type of app that you want to develop and what your content is and how it has to be organized and categorized and all those kinds of things, you may want to research some of these different things like business apps or the App Builder or iBuild app and look at the various different features, look at the different features that it has. Okay, now sorry, I'm getting a call. The various different features that are available, and then you can decide which one is appropriate for you, depending upon what it is that you're trying to do. So many of another thing that with these companies like business apps is a good example. Most of these companies come with development support. So if you don't if you're not a technical person or a designer or somebody who can go in and use a software program and create something, and you're like, okay, I'm a manager or I'm tasked with doing something like this, and that's not my area of expertise to do technical things and to build stuff like this. Most of these companies have teams of developers who you pay a fee, like you may pay $2,000. But then they're going to develop it and build the app for you. They're going to, do all the designing of it, put all the content in, do everything to get it into the Play Store or into the iPhone store, and all those other kinds of things that you would need. And again, there's a cost associated with that. Fortunately, with the Andromo software for the Android apps, it's not that. I mean, I'm an instructional designer, and so I know how to use template-based software programs. It's not terribly complicated. I mean, I think most people, who are able to use, regular software programs and put images into things and move text around would be able to use this. It's not terribly complicated. It's very intuitive, and there are detailed. It's nice to have detailed instructions that tell you, okay, now that you've created your app, what you have to do to get it into the Google Play Store, what you have to do to get it into the iPhone store, things like that. There's pretty good support out there available to help to take you through the steps. Of course, the huge difference is that it's really easy to upload things to Google Play and to get things in the Google Store. It's way more difficult to get things into the iTunes Apple Store. Again, the proprietary nature of Apple, there are more security things that go through. There's just more issues involved with it. So it's a more complicated process, and that could be a little bit more complicated when you get into doing this. But if you use something like Business Apps, they do have tutorials and they do have information on how to do it. Or if you want them to do that part of it for you, you can have them do that part of it for you for a fee. So that's how that works. The other way of creating mobile apps are software development kits. And software development kits are available for the Android and for the iPhone. Again, there are separate operating systems, so there are separate tools that you have to use to create mobile applications. You would use the Android SDK to do an Android app, and you'd use the iPhone Xcode to do a mobile app for an iPhone. There's also HTML, and you might be, or HTML5, and you may be hearing about HTML5 more and more, and how it's being used in the development of web applications that are viewable on smartphones and tablets. That does require, in most cases, that you have an HTML5 programmer who can develop that type of web application for you if you're doing it for a phone. A lot of the mobile websites have HTML5 code in them. There are some development tools that export to HTML5, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. But primarily, the software development kits are the tools that are used to make software. Both the Android SDK and the iPhone Xcode, those software development kits can be downloaded for free to develop custom mobile applications. The iPhone Xcode requires you to develop on a Mac. So if you wanted to develop an iPhone application, you wouldn't be developing it on a PC. You'd develop it on a Mac. There are some ways to do it, but they're really complicated. And so if you were going to go this route, you would definitely be doing it on a Mac. These types of tools are typically going to be used by computer programming experts to create mobile apps. They're not something they're not template-based, easy software programs to use like the subscription programs, which is the reason why the subscription programs are out there, is because there's small businesses, medium-sized businesses that want to develop applications, and they don't have the money to do custom-built software development for mobile applications. If you were going to do it this way, it would be more difficult to do, and you really would need to have some computer programming experts who could do it for you. The majority of the big applications that you see on the Google Play Store, the Apple iTunes Store for big companies are created with these. Like, certainly if you're going to use something like a banking software application or something similar to that, they're using tools like this and using highly skilled programmers and development people to develop those kinds of apps. It's obviously a more costly way to go than a subscription-based template tool, the template tools, like I said, they don't require the level of programming skills that it would take to build using this kind of thing. But I just wanted to point out to let you know that these are the types of tools that are available and how applications can get developed. The next thing is to talk about is how are they distributed. There's two things. You can distribute Android applications that are downloadable are distributed on the Google Play Store. iPhone applications that are downloadable are distributed on the Apple iTunes Store. When you develop a mobile app for an Android device, what you do is you create a developer's account on Google Play. So that you can search for Google Play Developer, and it brings up in the search you'll find the developer's console, and it walks you through how to create an account. So you create a secure account with a password and a username, and you pay a one-time fee of $25. And that allows you to upload your apps and allows others to download them from the Google Play Store. And there are really good instructions out there how to do this. And I was able to do it, so I think most people could probably figure out how to do it. There are some requirements. Once you load your application up there, like what happens is when you, let me back up, I'm sorry. When you use the program Andromo, which I said we're using to create our mobile apps, what happens is you're developing the whole thing online, and then you publish it, and you can publish a test version and download it onto your smartphone, and you can test it all out, and then you can go back online and make changes and then publish it again and test it all out and all that kind of stuff. Once you're happy with it and you're ready to put it up into the Google Play Store, then you would download the APK file, which is the file that has all of the information in it. You would download that onto your computer, and you would upload that file from your computer to the Google Play Store in your developer account. And when you're on the developer account, there are places for you to where it says upload your program, and you go ahead and you click on the little button and it uploads it. And then it walks you through a series of questions that you have to answer. For example, what category is the application? Is it reference? Is it news? Is it sports? Is it whatever? So you pick your category. And if you've been to the Google Play Store, and I think the iTunes Store is similar, there are like categories, and you can look in categories like lifestyle or reference or whatever. So that's where that information comes from, is when a developer puts an application up there, they assign a category to their application. You say who the audience is. Is it an audience for everybody? Is it a mature audience? Is it a restricted audience? And there's a variety of questions that you answer. They're all they're pretty easy questions to answer. And then you choose whether or not your application is free or if it's if there's a cost associated with downloading it. And in our case, our applications are all free. So I haven't investigated what it is for, if you're charging for your application. I don't know what further steps you have to take in order to have that happen, but since ours are free, I haven't had to look into that, so I can't really talk to how much, what other steps are involved in doing it if you pay for it. And then the other thing that you have to do is you have to upload a couple of screenshots. You can upload a minimum of 2 and more screenshots for your application. And you have to upload a icon graphic for your application that's what you see on the screen, like the picture of the little girl. And they give you the specs of what size. I think it's like 512 by 512 pixels or something. But it tells you specifically what it is that it has to be. And then once you put all that stuff up there, then you publish it to the Google Play Store. And it typically takes a little bit of time. Like it might take a half hour, it might take a couple of hours. I guess it has something to do with the Play Store and the servers and all that kind of stuff before it would become available through the Play Store where you could search it. So usually what happens is I upload it up there, and then a couple hours later I go check it out, and I go to the Play Store and I search on it and see if I can find it, and if it's there, then it's like, okay, great, it's up there. So it's really not a big deal to do this. For Apple, it's just more complicated. The iTunes App Store, when you develop for the iPhone, you have to create a developer's account on the Apple Developers Console. So you're doing the same thing. You're creating an account through Apple, and that cost is something like $100 per year. So you have to renew your account and pay for that. And then it's a more rigorous process to get an iPhone app approved for distribution through the iTunes App Store. There are more security things. There are more things you have to fill out. There are more issues with it. And since I've only read about it and looked through the steps, I haven't done it because we haven't gone forward with using an application like BizApps to do it. But I did the research to figure out what was involved in doing it, and reading through the instructions of what's in doing it, and it's definitely more complicated. The subscription service, BizApps or Business Apps or whatever one you would use, they provide instructions, and on the Apple Developer Console, it provides instructions on how to do it. And if you wanted them to do it for you, there's a fee involved. But I can only talk to the Android and the Google Play, and that it really didn't seem like a very rigorous or complicated process to me to be able to upload the apps and have them available. So that's what happens when you want to distribute them as apps that would be native applications that are going to get downloaded onto a phone or a tablet. You could download them onto a tablet. So this is, let's see, is there anything else I want to talk about here? I'm going to talk a little bit more about user reviews and things like that a little bit later. But that's
Val, I just want to give you a heads up on the time. It's 10:53.
Okay.
About 7 minutes.
Oh, till the end of the thing?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I thought we were going a little bit longer than that. I thought we were going to 11:30. Okay. Well, I think we were talking 60 or 90, but are we on for 60 minutes?
I thought we did.
Yeah, you're right. I think we did say 60 minutes, but I think we actually put on the thing 90. So I'll scoot it up. I'll scoot it up. Sorry, I'm talking a little too much. Like I said, we're developing.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Val. It did say 90, so maybe people are okay with 90 minutes. So if you are okay and if others are okay, we'll just continue. And if they need to go, they can just beep out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of I realized once I started talking, I'm sorry to time this out as well. Hopefully I'm not boring anybody. I hope this is good information for you.
It's good. Thanks.
Like I said, the Google Play Store browser-based iPhone apps, the two different things that we're doing at PICTA, we're developing the course or the mobile apps to go through the downloadable way through Google Play Store, and then the browser-based iPhone app. And the way that we're doing that is, okay, we came up with a solution to provide the web-based iPhone app by creating the same content but using a different format and a different software tool. So in our case, we used a software tool called Lectora, and Lectora is an e-learning software development tool that allows you to develop standard e-learning courses that you can use in learning management systems and stuff like that. What the added advantage of using Lectora is that Lectora has a number of templates that are available for tablet interfaces and phone interfaces, and the output of the content when you develop it, the output of the content when you publish it is HTML5 pages. So what happens is you create the application in Lectora, and then you publish it and you upload those files to your website. And so our solution to provide that to social workers was, we now on our website have a page for mobile apps, and on that page you can either click on the download or you can click on the iPhone browser-based. So if they have an iPhone, they can put a little desktop icon on their iPhone to go directly to that web page, and that will bring up the web app which you see on the right. That would bring up that web app on their phone, and they would be able to look at it through the browser on their phone. Again, the reason that we did that is all based on cost. The downfall with this whole thing is that the iPhone user has to be on an internet connection, and we basically have to create these applications twice. So where we're not spending the money on the subscription-based service to do multiple applications, we are, there is some internal labor cost involved in doing the development of the app. To develop the Android app probably took me a couple of hours. To develop the iPhone app probably took more like 5 or 6 hours. So it's, given that the content was already created. So there's a significantly more amount of effort involved in doing the iPhone app with Lectora, but it allowed us to at least address that population of people who have iPhones and to provide them with some type of a tool that they could use that had the same information without going through, having to try to create something that was going to cost us a lot of money to do it with a subscription-based service. One thing that we're talking about doing in the next fiscal year, though, is we are going to purchase a Mac, and we are going to use the software development kit and see if we can create a very similar, simple text-based type application. Because you can see our applications are pretty simple. There's some graphics that you use as icons, and then there's some text-based information, and there might be some links, and there might be a link to a video, or there could be an audio file, or there could be like a web link or something like that. So they're not really too sophisticated or complicated. There's not a lot of, there's no data transfer going on. There's no back-end stuff happening. So we're gonna at least take some time and see if it's something that we can actually do and develop in-house. But that's kind of a challenge for the next fiscal year. So we won't be doing that quite yet. But that was our approach of how we were able to try to get around doing it and at least have something available for iPhone users. The mobile applications that we currently have available for the Public Child Welfare Training Academy, we have one on child development milestones. We have one on elements of child sexual abuse, keys to engagement. We did a kind of marketing application for our academy, and we just did, as I said, the one on the W&I codes for social workers. And all of the content for the child development milestones, the keys to engagement, and elements of child sexual abuse, that content came from CalSWEC-based curriculum. So it came primarily from adjuncted material that's, like I said, the child development milestones is a little booklet that gets passed out. The keys to engagement is a handout that gets provided in the help me with that, Savon, the name of that course. It's the family engagement course. And then the elements of child sexual abuse came from CMI2, and there is a handout that gets provided in that. So they're all very similar in how they're built, and that they just have little icons that you can click on, and they have content on the pages that people are looking at that's just text and stuff like that. And then the WIC codes one was actually developed. That content was actually developed by one of our county consultants here at the Academy, Anzette Shackelford, who most recently came from San Diego County and was a worker for 12 years and has now joined our Academy as a trainer, and she trains for us as well. And so she was tasked. We did a survey of core social workers. In one of our core classes, we did a survey monkey, and we said, we're looking at developing mobile apps. What types of mobile apps would be usable? What would be what would you use if we developed them? So we got surveys back, and we looked at the different things, and we got a variety of different areas that people were interested in. And so those we're actually developing, and that's a little different process than taking existing content. The development of the apps requires a subject matter expert, either in-house or someone that you're going to contract to create the content that you're going to use for your mobile app. And so, so in our case, Anzette was really familiar with the W&I codes and which ones she thought would be the most useful. So she was able to put the content together and then provide me with the content, and then I programmed the application. The one thing that I wanted to point out about putting stuff in the Google Play Store is, for example, the child development milestones. Since that was, we didn't specifically say it was for social workers. It's Child Development Milestones, that's what it's called. It's out there, and anybody that wants to download it can download it. We, of course, we told our social workers about it. We advertised it through our counties. We advertised it in CORE, and people downloaded it. What we found was that it was obviously something that a lot of people were interested in because we had 3,475 downloads of that application. And the applications that are in the Play Store or the iTunes Store, people can make comments on them. They can do review comments or something like that. So you can see on the screen under Academy for Professional Excellence, there's 3 little stars and a 7. And then under Elements of Child Sexual Abuse, there's no ratings. So during the course of the 3,000 downloads, 3 people out of 3,000 made a review comment on Google Play about the application. And one of the comments was very positive, and 2 of them were a little bit shaky. And one of the comments led us to said something like, well, this information doesn't seem like it's, I forget what it was, but something to the effect that, it doesn't seem right that a 6-month-old would eat a cracker or something. There was some point that was being made. And so we went ahead and we re-vetted the content again with a child development expert, went through all the content we had, and found that that content that's on the CalSWEC website for Child Development Milestones, which comes from pediatric doctors and other vetted sources, is in fact vetted content. We just added a disclaimer to it saying that this is, no child is alike, no 2 children are alike, and we put a disclaimer on it is basically what we did. And then we re-uploaded it, and anybody who already had it had that download. But that's how we decided, well, we need to put disclaimers on them to let people know that these are not necessarily true for every single instance. And so we put disclaimers on. The same thing we're doing one for basic interviewing, and so there's a disclaimer that not every interview is the same, and you should always check with your supervisor or check with your county policy and things like that. So we did learn that we needed to put disclaimers on them to make sure that we did cover that information so that people knew that. But apparently there's a lot of people out there that are interested in child development milestones. And there's only a couple of free apps. There's several that are on there if you search it. There are several that are like 99 cents, $3.99, things like that. But apparently ours got picked up by quite a few people. So that's how that works. And then content for the mobile apps. Our experience has been, like I said, converting existing content. But what we've been telling content developers is we're going to do one on basic interviewing, we're doing one on safety tips, and we're doing one on ICWA, which is the Indian Child Welfare Act. And what we've asked the subject matter experts to do is to provide us, say, 4 pages of content that's in the form of like fact sheets or bulleted points or guidelines or tips or something like that, that is basically small chunks of content that can be organized into small pages of information. And then that information could have links, or it could have an audio that would play if it needed it, or it could have like a PDF file that you could call up, or various resources. So that's kind of the direction that we're providing. And typically what happens is, and even with the content that we did for the ones that we've already developed from existing content, is that it's usually a lot of content. And so I'll have to edit the content to make it into more smaller chunks of content, because we don't want to have a lot of scrolling on the phone. I mean, there is some scrolling just because of the fact that you only have so much display area on the phone. But we're trying to limit the content so that there's not like an enormous amount of scrolling back and forth when they're looking at the content. So the organization and page orientation, what I put this up here is I wanted to show you the difference between, for instance, on our Academy application that's on the left, we have the icons that you can click on that talk about the different programs. On the right is a different style of application that is more aligned with what you would get if you were doing the subscription service like Business Apps or one of those similar ones. Those templates seem to be more rigorous in that they allow for a organizational topic where, like you can see on this one, it says, "Who's afraid of the big back wolf?" And you're going to click on that, and you're going to get then a series of different things. Or feel the rhythm, and then you're going to get a series of different things. So you have an added layer of categorization and topicalization that you can do with the content. You can't do that with the Andromo software. It doesn't allow for topical information like that. It provides you with simply custom-built pages. So you can arrange them in any order you want, but you can't topicalize them. So that's one thing that I think is kind of a drawback about the Andromo software, but it's not enough of a drawback that we're not using it. We're learning as we go. We're still pretty new. We've only been doing this about a year, and so we're trying to capitalize on the lessons learned and kind of see what hopefully other folks are out there doing things and learning about what's happening with them. But this has been our experience to date with mobile applications for our end. And then the last thing that I was going to point you to is there's actually a really good mobile application that talks about mobile learning. And it talks about mobile learning, it talks about mobile applications, and you can download it to your phone. And the interface for this primer that Float put together kind of has a little templated interface where you can click on a glossary or you can click on resources. And then when you click on the Resources tab, it lists a whole bunch of different blogs and a whole bunch of different information. You can click on examples, and it does a bunch of examples. So this might be one kind of quick area to download this little app and kind of look at the information and learn a little bit more about mobile learning, just kind of from a mobile learning platform, which is kind of a cool little idea. And I think, it's cross-platform, so you can use it on an Apple or you can use it on a Google, on an Android. And again, in Google, I mean, if you do searches for M-learning and stuff, I think one of the places that I'm going to a lot is the same place that I go for e-learning is the e-learning guild is what I look at a lot for research. They have been putting out, and we subscribe to it, so we've been studying their mobile learning white papers and the information that they are providing about mobile learning and a lot of the tips and strategies and areas of lessons learned that talk about using small amounts of content and those types of things. We're getting that information from their white papers and their stuff, and so we find that to be a really good central location to get information about M-learning. But there's just an enormous amount of information out there now because it's becoming such a prevalent way of doing and trying to extend training. So okay, we're at the end, so if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great. So then we would ask folks if they have questions to type them in the chat. David has one question, and it might be about a previous slide. It says, with a native application, what about adding new material that they would not have unless they update? Web-based might be better for any content that is fluid or developing. And that's a question.
Well, I would say that question, either one actually, a web-based or a native-based would work because, for instance, once somebody puts an application on their phone, if you make any changes to the application, you simply upload the application to the Google Play Store again, and it will, if your phone is prompted to download an update, it will automatically download the update of the information. So it's really as fluid to do it on a website as it is to do it in the Google Play Store. You're still uploading information to a source that's putting it out there. So I would say you could go either way.
Okay. Kamiko has a question. Are any of the apps you developed available to counties? And it says it sounds like we would need to create our own apps.
These apps are development to all counties. We've put the information out to let CalSWEC know that they're available. These are free applications that anybody can go into the Google Play Store and download. If you need me to send you, if you want to email me, I will send you the page on our website that will provide you the information of where to go get them in the Google Play Store and the topic areas that we have. Yeah, we're interested in having as many people get them as possible.
So she can contact you, go to your website, and go to CalSWEC's website because we have a list of the apps on our website.
Yeah, so also. Either whatever way is easiest. Yeah. We're happy to, we want to get the word out so the people are using them.
do you record mobile training in any kind of learning management system? That's from Brenda.
We don't. What I had, excuse me, I talked about earlier in the presentation was when we first started looking at mobile learning, we looked at our learning management system has a player and a little app that you can put on your phone, and you can download mobile learning courses to it, and you can track training you can track those little applications through that. The reason that we're not doing it is cost. We would have to provide mobile access to all of the thousands of people in our learning management system that might potentially take something, and there was a per person cost involved, and it wasn't a cost-effective way to do it through our academy. So that's the reason that we're not doing that. And we're not doing it. We're not doing anything through our learning management system with true mobile learning.
Okay. If there's other questions, I had, I think, one or two earlier. You mentioned the WIC codes earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know offhand if any of the ones that are available on an app relate to adoptions?
On the WIC codes, it had to do the, I would say download the app and look at it. If I remember correctly, it has to do with the 300 series
The
codes.
conference has been unmuted.
The 300 series codes and things like the hearings, I don't remember if it had anything to do with adoptions, quite frankly. I don't remember the content that closely.
Okay. I'll take a look. Another question. I know you had given, this is really cool information. Is there a size limitation for creating apps with Andromo? You talked about not wanting people to scroll, and I thought I heard you say something about video earlier, but are you making a conscious decision to, I know you said kind of bullet and little pieces of information, but is there a size limitation?
Not that I'm aware of. I think if you added more media or you added more graphics and things like that, the actual application would be bigger and it would just be a little more data that's getting downloaded, but not to my knowledge. I don't believe that there's any kind of, I don't believe that there's any size limit on it. And you notice when you download apps from the App Store on your phone, sometimes they download really quickly because they're like, you know, a meg, and some of them are like 9 meg. So as far as I know, there isn't any size limitation on it.
So I'm just thinking that I thought you said there was a $99 cost per year for unlimited creation of apps.
That's correct.
That sounds very affordable.
Yeah, that's why we went with it.
Yeah.
The only problem is that it does not support the iPhone user.
Yeah. Brenda
so
has
it's Android only.
Android only, okay. Brenda has a question. When do you expect the ICWA training to be available?
I think by the end of this fiscal year. We're working with our Tribal Star folks, so we're just at the content development stage. So they're working as the subject matter experts to determine what content would be good content to put on a mobile app about ICWA. So our goal is to try to have it done by the end of June.
All right. So stay tuned for that one, Brenda.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
And if anybody, I mean, my email's up there. Feel free to contact me if you have any other questions I can answer. Like I don't really consider myself an expert. I'm learning as I go. But this is what I've kind of figured out so far along the way. And, we're trying to figure out, ways to do things that are, hopefully, able to get the material out to the social workers.
Well, Val, I want to say thank you to you. It's interesting because although you are part of the Technology and Learning Committee, and I know that you're doing this, you presented kind of the back end and how to do it today, and it was so informative. So I really want to say thank you and appreciate that you were able to take your time to do this for folks.
Oh, yeah, you're very welcome.
It does not look like there's any other questions, so I would like to also thank the participants who stayed with us for this webinar. I hope that you found it also informative, and Val has offered her email if you have any questions. There was a comment that one of the attendees would like us to send the link out to all attendees. So I'll do that. I'll send out the link to PICTA's website to all of the attendees, and know that this webinar will be available. We're recording it. It will be available online soon if you want to review it and send it to other people. So with that, thanks to everyone, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you. Please stand by.